My name is Laramie Grant. I am a year one Ascend student, which means just that I get to do a lot of really cool things. So my project this year was I wanted to do something that would be challenging, but also would be accomplishable. And I've always wanted to travel internationally, but do it in a way that would be helping others and of service to others. And so I saw this by going to Ethiopia and doing a missions trip there. A little bit of backstory is I have two younger brothers who were adopted from Ethiopia. And so it has always been kind of that tug on my heart that I've always wanted to go back and get to see more of their culture and experience more of their history and see more of that. Not through just the lens of books or videos, but actually be there in person and get to see the sights and smell the smells. And so it wasn't that I went with a particular organization, but my sister has been working at several orphanages there ahead of time. So I had connections of where to go because it was definitely more of a very rural area. So we flew to the capital and then definitely into the middle of nowhere. So, so it was just a very cool opportunity to be able to go and not have necessarily an agenda of here are all the things I want to do, but to go and say, how can I help and serve you in a way that also helps me grow personally and get to see more of the authentic culture of Ethiopia. Mornings, they kind of were doing their things where they would be getting the kids up, getting them showered, dressed, fed, all the necessities for all the young children. And so we would typically come over more in the afternoon after they had finished their schooling, their all of the lessons that they did in the mornings, and we would do more of the afternoon interaction, physical therapy for some of the kids with special needs or physical deficits, more of just the being present of reading them stories, helping find do sign language tutoring for one of the kids who was deaf. It was never one set schedule of here's what we're all doing today. It was more of very fluctuating. Here's the need, we'll fill that. Jump over here, here's another need, we'll do that. We were definitely with a lot of orphanages, a lot of kids all the time. But we did go to a baby orphanage, and that one I would say was one of the more moving but also hard ones to do, because you get to see all of this hardship at literally infants to a couple months old. And so that being said, one of the kids one of the little babies I met there was a little boy who unfortunately, whose mother unfortunately did try to abort him. But again, since they don't have necessarily the medicine that we have in a first world country, it was done in a very disturbing way. And he unfortunately survived. And so I didn't even get to spend days with him. It was more we had a 15-minute interaction, but just being able to see him and see how much he is still trying to grow despite having both mental and brain trauma, as well as physical underdevelopment of his lungs, so he can't breathe well. So not even being able to do a lot, but just being able to sit there and rock him or hold him up so he could actually have the space to actually inhale deeply and get a full deep breath was, I think, one of the more meaningful stories, because again, you don't it's very easy to say I'm pro-life or against abortion, but until you actually get to see the aftermath of what goes wrong or when it doesn't go as planned, you get to truly see the atrocity of what it is. And so it really was just reinvigorating to me of just realizing how much more I want to be involved in making different resources available so this doesn't happen again to these precious little children. I chose Ascend because of much more of the flexibility, because typically you would not be able to do what I did. I did a missions trip in the middle of March, that's the middle of school year, some finals, you can't really just pick up school and leave if you were in any other traditional schooling. And so being able to kind of do it on my own schedule and having the flexibility to take my school with me to places that are incredibly rural so I can still do my dream of helping people was incredibly helpful to me. Ascend and Unbound, you meet the people who want to be here are the people who are going to be challenging you and pushing you, holding you accountable, but also encouraging you every step of the way. So I definitely several friends who were encouraging me through this, supporting me through this, and like just having that community was, I think, very crucial to like more of the success that I had, because it was more of like you couldn't ever chicken out and be like, oh, well, you know, I wanted to go, never did. But like you had the accountability, but also the encouragement and the community to support you and back you up into that. I would definitely like to be able to harness more skills and gain more experience. That way, when I do go back, because I don't think it's a question of if, it's when, I will be able to be more of service. So I feel like this was a great like training, like boot camp of like, here's what to expect. And now I get to be back here in a place that God has put me to train myself and make myself be better educated and learned. I would say I would very, very deeply hope and would wish that one of the takeaways, even just from my story, would just be that people would be willing to maybe get outside of themselves more to go and be of service other places. And this doesn't mean that you have to go on a mission trip. It could be serving just locally where you are at. It is uncomfortable, it is hard, and it almost always is like costs you more personally than what you ever get out of it. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't have value. And so yes, doing a mission trip wasn't necessarily like the most glamorous or easy thing. There was definitely a lot of financial expenses that I had to take care of, a lot of emotional things, but that challenge and those, not necessarily trials, but just like the way of trying to accomplish your goal, is you get to build that resilience. And I think that is so key in what we need today, is that willingness to sacrifice and die to yourself in order to be of service and actually grow deeper, both in yourself, your relationships, your personal relationship with God, but also that is, I think, a good next step for taking care of and healing your communities in whatever way you can.